Okay, so I had a request to do, will there ever be a cure for TBI, which is traumatic brain injury? And it's usually caused by outside force, you know, a blow to the head or trauma of some sort, but not always. But it is thought to be permanent. And I'm going to do a reading after this on the cure for HIV. Because so far 2 people have been cured, but it's not been something widely reported because of the way that it has been cured. So stem cells and all that kind of stuff was supposed to be the wave of the future to cure, you know, things like Parkinson's and things like that. So TBI, will it ever be cured? Let's say, will it ever be cured? Will it be cured in the next 10 years? Will it ever be, not ever, will it be cured in the next 10 years? 7 of Wands. 5 of Cups. 2 of Swords. The Tower. The Judgment. Chariot. 3 of Swords. 6 of Cups. The Star. And the 8 of Cups. Okay. So will it ever be cured? Will it be cured in the next 10 years? You start with the 7 of Wands. The 7 of Wands is a card of defense, being on guard. It is also a card of the higher ground, so coming at it from a position of strength initially. That is, however, crossed with disappointment. This is more along the lines of what you would call a setback, because complete devastation and loss means that all of your cups have been knocked over. But this card always reminds you that only 3 have been knocked over and 2 are behind you. You've turned your back to them because you've lost something. Therefore, you feel as though it is the worst thing in the world. Oh my God, we just lost everything. No, you didn't. Turn around. There's still something there. It's just... Now, researchers know this because they're constantly at the drawing board. But what happens is they get an inch into a solution, and then it turns out not to be a solution, and then the world says, oh hell, let's panic. This is never going to work. This is this and this and this and this and this and this. No, calm yourself, because mind you, 10 years ago, they were not even at this point. Now they are. So, with things like CTI and TBI and these, or the CTE, excuse me, and TBI and things like that, where these traumatic brain injuries occur, or even PTSD, where you have just these mental, that's more of a, well, hell, it's a brain thing. Brain is brain. But TBI is usually, not always, usually caused by force, like something hitting the head causing brain trauma. CTE is the same thing. It's this is usually something football players get and wrestlers, to where when they have this constant head trauma, it causes this. PTSD is more of an emotional brain thing. But to be able to manipulate the damage done to a brain is something where they are a lot further along than they have been. They just hit the wall because some things don't stick, some things don't work, and we're not really getting a solution. So you go back to the drawing board. You figure out what are we doing wrong, and this is the research of it all. It's not a bad thing because this is usually part of indecision. This is not bad. Indecision is not a bad thing, because if you have no options, then there is no decision to even be made. You do have a decision to make, you just don't know which one to do. Just try them all. That's what trial and error is. That's what you do in these kind of tests. Everybody's heard the advertisement on the radio. If you want to get tested with this experimental drug, call us at 1-800-experimental drug. So then there's the tower. Like I said, back to the drawing board. You have the indecision. It turns into this did not work. Not only did this not work, but our patient died. So it's devastating. It's a devastating loss. It's a devastating setback. You come at it from a position of we're doing this for the greater good. Because some people don't like you testing on anything. Not on animals, not on plants, not on people, not on anything. But you come at this as a position of we're doing this for the greater good. We have constant setbacks, yes, and that's all you ever tend to look at is when something goes wrong. And then applaud me when everything goes right. But you didn't see the process in between. All you saw was the towering results. Back to the drawing board. Rebirth. Starting all over again. That which was dormant is now fresh again. Victory, triumph, and moving forward. Self-discipline, eyes on the prize. So you have to keep going in order to get results. And the fear is the celebration. The fear is you will not succeed. Now your hopes is money. Like, not money as in we're going to get money for this, but we're going to constantly have a source of funding. That way we can keep these tests going. And the environment is the Six of Cups, which goes right back to the Judgment card. So the Judgment card is the cycle coming back again. You know, after the Tower, we just start all over again. And then in the environment is remembering when. Remembering when we did this. Remembering when we did that. Remembering when we had this. Remembering when we had that. So this is the Remember When card. And what that has to do with this is, like I said earlier, when you have the remember where we were 10 years ago, we have made progress, therefore don't get disappointed by the setbacks. Now your word of warning is the hope. It goes right back to your celebration and your fear. So it can feel hopeless every time you're setback, but your word of solace is the sun. So you're constantly reminded that although you have the setbacks, you always have the start over. So don't ever get, this is your hopes, that's your funding. Don't ever get so discouraged that they don't have it yet. Because what happens, this is your outcome. And this can be seen as two things. This is a card of abandonment, leaving it behind. That's not a bad thing. Because remember, when you leave it behind, it's because it did not work. This is an unfinished project most of the time. This can also be something that you're just exhausted with. You have tried and tried, and let's move on to something else. That's your rebirth. It will come back again. So there is an effort to do something about TBI. It's just in constant setback. So in the next 10 years, I don't see there being a cure for it or a remedy to it. But they are working. Now, HIV. HIV was treated in 2 people, but they also had cancer. That is why they were treated for it, because the combination of the remedy was bone marrow transplant combined with radiation. So it's kind of, they equated it to the cure being worse than the disease type of thing. So you have to go through not just a bone marrow transplant, but you have to also go through chemotherapy, and that treated the person for HIV. They're saying instead of going through all of that, just use PrEP. P-R-E-P. PrEP is a medication that can make the HIV virus not undetectable as in it's hidden from you, but it's nearly undetectable as in you can't transmit it as easily as you could without it, without the PrEP. So, because mind you, there is a voice actor, very popular. If you heard any commercial for a movie, you heard his voice. His name is Ben Patrick Johnson. And his boyfriend or ex-husband or whatever he was, I think ex-husband, was HIV positive. They would have sex without protection, without a condom, because Ben was taking PrEP. And so with him taking PrEP and his partner being positive, Ben would not contract the HIV because of the PrEP. The PrEP makes it not impossible, but highly unlikely for you to contract HIV from a positive person, unless done intravenously. So, the cure for HIV, next 10 years, without the chemo and the bone marrow transplant. What does that look like for us? Okay. There's a Queen of Cups and a King of Cups. Interesting. There's people. Either people or traits. So this could be water sign people, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio, or this just could be the traits of those 2 cards. Like the King of Cups, for instance, is, or the Queen of Cups is compassionate person in touch with their emotions. They could be a beautiful person as well. And the King of Cups is also emotionally balanced, caring. So these could be doctors, because that caring compassion is usually attached to the water sign, and those professions are usually also attached to the water element. So that could just be the medical field. And the reason I get both the King and the Queen is because this is a group effort. So this is not something that is taken lightly. This is something that is sort of being hit strong. Like they are actively trying to find a cure. Like 25 million people have died from it, from AIDS and HIV. So there is the Chariot, eyes on the prize again. It's at the base. So that's just your confirmation. This is a group effort. This is a team effort. We're going at this strong. Eyes on the prize. There is the movement and that action with the Knight of Wands. The Empress, about new life. So yes, there's your confirmation right there that the medical field is tirelessly working on this. Hermit, searching for answers. It's all saying the same thing. They're working towards it. And your fear is the Queen of Swords. This is a trait as well. Now, what's interesting about the Queen of Swords is usually comes up as judges in law for me. The Queen of Swords, independent, straightforward type of person, could also be a bit heartless. So let's say, oh, well, we don't have to let's say. The example is the medical industry. In particular case, they were, with the radiation and the bone marrow transplant, also experimenting with stem cells. And stem cells were held up in American courts. Now, mind you, these two cases cured are overseas. They're not here. So I think one was in Berlin and one was in London or something like that. But over here, stem cells, because they were gotten from, I believe, embryos at the time, which is just an undeveloped child, which is then sort of like, you know, the whole evangelical call it murder, because that's a child and you're killing the child, you know, that type of thing. So it was held up here. That's the fear. That's why that's the fear. And the hopes is the separation from, like, keep your religion out of my progression. Separation. Like, be holy over there, let's be scientific over here. So in your environment is the Seven of Pentacles. So Seven of Pentacles is a patience card. It is also a waiting card. It is a seeding to harvest card. So things that they have done in the past is how they have gotten to where they are now. Before, back in the 80s when this started, really gaining national attention, there wasn't as many developments as we have now. So the things that have been seeded in the past are now coming to fruition. Your word of warning, though, is the money news. Just like in the TBI, money is going to be your biggest. Money and law, those are your biggest hurdles. And there it is. Your word of solace, you be holy over there and just let me be the devil over here then. If I'm so evil, that's fine. What I'm trying to do is for the greater good. This is seen as destructive behavior. Separation. I need for you to be holy over there. Let me be scientific over here. Science is often seen as the devil from evangelicals because it goes against God. When you say the Big Bang instead of God created in 6 days, then, you know. Anyway, moving on. The bond, the meeting of the minds, the agreements. The team's working. That is your hope for HIV and its cure. Now, as far as stigma goes, that's a whole different reading, and I'm not going into that. But cure for TBI, they are working on it. Cure for HIV, they are working on it. Remain hopeful.